¿Qué tal? Bienvenidos a su programa Viva Latino y estamos muy contentos porque estamos en programa con Makami College y se encuentra con nosotros Blanca Vera con un invitado. Hoy sí no nos lo tiene de sorpresa, hoy está con él y va a estar muy interesante esta entrevista, así que no se la pierdan y al final les tenemos una sorpresa, pero espérense hasta el final de esta entrevista. Si no se han suscrito, los invitamos a que se suscriban y que le den like. Y Blanca, ¿qué
Hola,
gusto tener por
Giuseppe.
acá?
Muy buenas tardes. Muchas gracias por el espacio. Y bueno, te vemos así como que muy contento, muy así, muy en fiesta. Nosotros también aquí en Makami siempre, cada día damos lo mejor de nosotros. Y como pueden ver, a mi lado se encuentra Olakunle, o Kunle como todos lo conocemos.
El famoso Kunle.
Así es, you're famous.
Oh, wow.
Esta entrevista el día de hoy va a ser completamente en inglés porque nuestro invitado de hoy, que ha estado en otros programas con nosotros, ha sido muy famoso. La gente ha estado preguntando acerca de los programas y de los servicios que ofrecemos aquí en Makami College. ¿Y quién más que darnos la información directa? Kunle, welcome again. Thank you so much.
Hey, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Kunle, welcome to be here in Viva Latino again. In where we, Blanca say, in me, it's the first, but for sure it's not the last. And we are happy to hear here in the program, And for the people, I know you're famous, but the people, they don't know who are you. Can you talk a little about you, please?
Okay. Oh boy. Yeah, it's always a tough question. I think it's one of the hardest questions that people ask you. My role or my title at the college is I'm the SALT director, and the SALT team is the acronym for Strategic Academic Learning Team. So we're a support team for students, and we provide academic and kind of psychological, emotional support for students. For all the students in the program at the college. And I get the pleasure of directing the team that does that. And with that, I get the pleasure of also creating different strategies and resources for students. So that's really my primary role. Now I have other roles. So I'm also a psychologist. So I also support students with counseling and also academic advising in that role as well. So those are, I would say that really my primary thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Blanca.
Kunle, tell us a little bit how much has been the progress from Makami College in 2001 when it started until now, 2023.
Oh boy. Well, I can tell you a little bit about the progress I could see closely, but I'm sure if you had 5 people, they could tell you different perspectives. But what I see is obviously we have way more programs than we did. I think we started with primarily massage, and now we have multiple programs. And with that, we also have increased our amount of campuses that we have. We've increased the amount of students that we have. And with more people, more students, we've also created our support team. So we have way more skilled support people who help people with different issues. So I mean, I could probably talk for 3 hours about if I had to go into detail about all the changes. But it's actually been quite remarkable. I'll leave you this. So I remember one time when we used to do our loyalty dinner, which happens to be today. So we have a loyalty dinner for the staff that's been here for more than 5 years. The first one I went to maybe was 6 people. The other day I went to the loyalty dinner, it was like 50 people. 50 people that had been with the company for over 5 years. And it started to look like a Christmas party.
Right?
Yeah, so that is a really good, I think, analogy for the change in the development of the college,
Kunle, the school is changed.
Yeah.
But the students, how is your
what's different with the students?
Yeah, what happened with the student? Because
they
go to 2010 and now the student, they have more information, they know more about the school. What is your first contact with the student?
Oh, okay. Well, I can think a little about students. Maybe we'll just talk about we say we have more students, but we also have the population of the type of students we have has changed remarkably too, like in multiple ways. So we have diversity not only in like cultures, but we also have diversity in terms of different educational backgrounds. Like we have people who have medical degrees that come here and do additional things. And we have people who have just high school. So we have a huge diversity. We also have a huge diversity of people in terms of their age range. We have students who just finished high school, and we have students who are like 70 years old. So the diversity of the students have changed. I think when the college originally opened up, it was founded on a pretty narrow population, mainly some immigrants that were single moms or people new to the country. But now it's like you could have, if you wanted to say, show me what a college student looks like at Makami College, you wouldn't be able to find one individual to represent that. So you have to probably find 10 people to represent that. So yeah, that's definitely one thing I've noticed. And the supports that they use is really a reflection of the supports that we have. Like people didn't use stuff before because it just didn't exist. But now, because we have such diverse level of support, people use everything. And some people use everything literally themselves. And some people will only use our tutoring department, and that's all they do. Like for example, I'll give you a stat. Over 85% will use our tutoring department at one time while they're in the program. And this goes for students who are getting like 95s, the students who are barely passing the program.
And it's interesting, but you say they have a different age, different, the different countries, the different level, completely different. But in your experience, what is the point? Because, and then all the students have successful, have the certified, have the diploma. What do you think? What is the, not the key, but what is the path to have the different countries? Everything is different and the same, and then they have the graduation.
Yeah, well, I think the breadth of support that we have, and also the flexibility of the program. Like most programs are pretty structured in a non-flexible way, so it only suits a certain population, a group of people. But because our structure of our program is very flexible, it allows many people to be able to fit through that. Even if you just use the comparison of normal school, like if you look at from K to grade 12 in Canada, certain type of learners that school format works for. And those are the type of learners that usually will do well in that format. But with the diverse groups of people we have in Canada, some of it won't work for them. And so they find themselves not successful. So our secret sauce, so to speak, is the flexibility that we have in terms of the program. So it meets lots of people's needs. So I think that's why we can be successful. Yeah.
Excellent.
Plus the supports that the school or Makami offer for every single student.
Absolutely.
You mentioned tutoring. We have ESL.
Exactly.
We have many supports. Like pretty much we work with the students around their schedule.
Yeah.
And we make possible that no matter if they have to ride the bus, if their car broke, or they have 5 4 kids, right? Or they have to work Monday to Friday and they just have 2 days off, or they are off, between the weekdays, right? I think Makami has done a lot of effort to help the students to achieve education.
Yeah.
And you are part of that.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, Blanca. Yeah, like I think what we've done really well is that we identify what gets in students' way, and then we create a program for it, like for our blended program. Right. Like a lot of people, it was, I have to work, I have to make money for my family. I can't be here that many days a week. So then we said, okay, well, we'll create a program where you can do some of the work at home. Right. And you don't have to be here 1 day a week. And all of a sudden that opened the door for a lot of people who would not be able to be a student.
Right.
Like, so yeah, so we're just very good at at creating opportunities for other people. Yeah.
And also now, Giuseppe audience knows that we offer completely online programs like the medical office assistant and business admin assistant. And not because they are completely online means that they cannot have the support that we offer. Right?
Yeah, like thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, so we do have some online programs where if you didn't want to step on campus or you couldn't, you could run the program. But there are options that at any time you can come on campus, use the same resources as the kind of like physical based students are, and get the same level of support. And some students do that. Some students will come for tutoring. Some students will actually come for counseling. Some students will do counseling online. So you still get support even if you're not physically here, and you always have the option to be here if you want to. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Keep in mind that.
That's right. Keep it in mind.
Keep it in mind. You talk about the international student because it's multicultural. Makami is the school that have a lot student multicultural, different countries, different language. Sometimes this is a issue in the sense to the try to more comprehensive to the classmate.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I haven't seen a lot of actual issues with people from different cultures having battles of any type. What I do see, if there's any, I guess, challenges, sometimes if you have a lot of people from the same country, it doesn't make you initiate doing things you can do. I'll say, for example, we know many students who have ESL, English as a second language, they tend to not push themselves or not use the skill they have. If they have somebody from the same country there, they tend to lean on that person and speak in their own language. Although some of these people have, very solid ability to speak English, but in their mind, it's not as ideal. And so then they're hesitant to use the skill, which, I feel like it's a little bit of a disadvantage for them because it doesn't give them an opportunity to actually integrate that skill, which is going to be important if they're going to work in English-based culture,
Right.
Yeah.
About the process, the academics, you think the program online is help to the people they don't have time or they have a lot of things to do, or they say, it's more easy?
Yeah, well, I think the program online can be useful for a lot of reasons. And again, just me observing some of the students, again, some of them may have limited economic ability, like transportation's an issue. Again, childcare is an issue. So these are all, economic related issues. And so then they can't participate because of all these gaps. And then, so being online lets you basically make this a non-issue. And the fact that we actually, part of the online program is we actually even give them a computer. Because for a lot of online programs, you got to get your own computer. And that would be another issue for a lot of people. But we have that built into our, tuition. So it takes away that barrier too. So again, this is us just being aware of what is a barrier for people education, and we try to make sure it's not a barrier. But yeah, so I think, but interesting. I also found people online, and this happens to people who struggle to be comfortable in and around people. Mm-hmm. And so this is another barrier for some people. They struggle with what we call social anxiety, and this is another barrier that people may not recognize that's significant, and this takes away from that barrier too.
You say social anxiety. What do you mean?
Yeah, well.
For the people that show the program, they say, okay.
I shouldn't say that like that, but it's on a continuum. So, there's people who are shy, and they just again, prefer to be around people that they like, the people that they know. And there's people who are super uncomfortable and are almost in distress when they're around people they don't know, and that feel that person for some reason has negative intent toward them. Doesn't like them, wants to see them harmed, and this is a bona fide mental health condition.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kunle, speaking of that, how can you identify that anxiety? Because there is a lot of different anxieties and level of anxieties, right? How can you, as an individual that don't have the knowledge that you as a psychologist has, how can you recognize that it has an anxiety, if it's just being just uncomfortable, but not recognizing that?
No, well. That's not an easy question, Blanca. I'll tell you.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. To be honest, it'd be difficult. Like, I think the only way to really, well, maybe there's some certain cues, right? Like, usually those people will be less interactive. That's the sign. It's not for everyone. And this is a continuum where we have shy people and people that feel like overwhelmed and distressed. But even shy people, you see that they're less responsive. They make less eye contact. Their body language is they're less like their droop shoulders. So you see these signs, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone who does that has social anxiety, but certainly those are the signs. But then you also see people who might look actually defensive, like their face looks like they're upset, and even because you get different responses to threat. Like, so not going too technical, but think about when anxiety really is a fear response, a response that there's some reason that I shouldn't be comfortable or I'm in danger of the situation. Now, if you understand a fear response, there's really 2 or 3 responses. We call it fight, flight, or freeze. So some people will stay away and freeze, and some people will get aggressive and be irritated. Have you ever heard the term? I find this very interesting. Is I don't know if you heard this, resting bee face. I won't say the word, but have you ever heard the term? No. So in here in North America, they'll use the term resting bee face, which bee is for a bad word, I won't say it, but it's for people who look mad and angry all the time. And sometimes that's a sign of somebody who's just overwhelmed by a situation and they feel threat of some type. So instead of being smiley, they're like this, and they look very aggressive. And that's also a sign of people might be overwhelmed as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kunle, I have a lot of questions, but the next is where people join, they say, okay, I have the energy, I would like to start any program, and I don't have compromise, and okay, I go to the school. All people say, my activity, my compromise, my everything is different, but also the people that have special capabilities. How work Makami College with these specific students? Or the people that is interesting in Makami, and they say, I have opportunity to go to Makami and have the program.
Okay,
so you're saying like high level students we're talking about? Are we talking about
disabilities?
Are we talking about people a high level or people who are challenged?
Disability, the challenge.
Okay. So
yeah, because any people is normal. That's my personal opinion. We are not normal. We have a different issues.
Right. Absolutely.
And some person they say, okay, maybe I'm very nervous, or maybe I can hear very good, or I have different capabilities, and say, okay, I would like to go. I would like to participate in the program for a student. Or my family say, no, you don't do it. But I have the passion for that. How is open the school Makami College for this person that have interest in?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And actually, me and Blanca hooked up on this situation multiple times. And so what usually happens is that everything starts usually with the advisors. And so somebody will approach the student advisors and say, hey, I want to come to the program. If the student, has identified the challenge, they'll usually, if it seems typical of what we've worked with, then they usually just they proceed, and they know that we have a support, like we have disability funding for those type of students. So they just proceed like a normal student, and then we make sure that they're appointed to the disability advisor, which works in SAS as well. And then what happens is that they'll eventually get direct to me. I'll do a assessment on them to get a background information in terms of what supports will be useful, and then we get the learning strategist to provide recommendations, and we get financial support from them as well, and then we have a plan to help them get through the program. So that's kind of how it works. If it's something that's typical, if it's atypical and it seems like something that is more challenging, before we even enroll them, the advisors will bring them to me, and then we'll have a conversation, get some more information to see how good the fit is, and then if the fit looks okay, then we'll proceed like I just talked about. But yeah.
It's interesting.
I remember, Kunle, sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of people with different capacities or disabilities, we have had at least, I remember, 3 people that are partial blind.
Yeah.
And I think that even if they are missing a sense, they develop more other senses, right?
Yeah. That's something that has been documented in literature in terms of psychology. Like and the vision system is one of the systems that is most people will know about. So the idea is and especially if you have visual impairments when you're younger, your brain, and even when you're older, our brain is what we call placid, meaning it's like plastic in some way. It can move and adapt and change. And so when your visual system is not using the eye so much, some of that information that your brain would be using to control your vision is redistributed to other parts. So then you have more control or more ability. So for example, if you're not using your eyes so much, the brain tissue connected to the eyes gets redistributed to maybe your sensory system, your hands. So then your ability to touch and feel is highly developed, more than somebody else that is using their visual system. So what we see for some of the students here is they end up having very good, we call it kinesthetic sense, which is basically the ability to touch and feel and understand what's happening with the body, although they can't see. Yeah. So it's
Yeah, because another point is, for example, the person we have dyslexia. Exactly, dyslexia, because, and it's interesting you explain that, Kunle, because people maybe have a friend or maybe they have a family, have interesting to go to Makami and have a success in their life and change their life completely to a new opportunities, new job, and say, the school is asset to us, it's complicated, how is work with that, or the school have the support to this
Well, I'll tell you a story. I actually have a really good story about a student with dyslexia. So we had a student with dyslexia. Actually, both him and his mom came to the program. And actually, him and his mom would be a perfect example of the diversity of Makami support and success stories. So maybe I'll talk about both of them. I don't know. But I'll talk about him first since we're talking about dyslexia. So we had a young guy. He came and initially, he didn't identify himself as having any challenge, and we weren't aware. But then we part of our support team, our active support teams, that we review the different classes to see how students are doing academically. So in our review, we saw that this particular student was doing poorly. So what we do is when we notice that, we send out emails and we reach out to say, hey, we see that you're struggling right now. Is there anything that we can do? So then we were able to identify this student through this system. So then I actually did assessment with him, and I realized he had significant dyslexia. Like his dyslexia was so bad, he could barely recognize letters. Like if I put a letter, he wouldn't even know what the letter is. So it was not like some people's dyslexia is bad that they can't read words because the words are all moving around or upside down, but he couldn't barely recognize letters. So we're like, oh man, this is going to be interesting. So we were able to work with them over time to test them in a different way. And so instead of making him do tests where he had to read everything, and we actually recorded the test, and he would respond verbally. He would tell us the answer. And it turned out the guy was actually super bright, but it's just that he couldn't do it in the traditional way. So he tried to write exams by reading them and answering, and it was in his brain, but he couldn't put it on the paper because he couldn't understand what the hell the paper was asking him to do because his dyslexia.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people, like, they get into the college and they are afraid to let us know sometimes, but they think that we're going to remove them from the program because of these challenges. So he probably didn't self-identify because of that reason. So anyway, long story short, I'll fast forward on him. He ended up getting a job working in a high-level place. They actually had the program created for him. So one of the things you have to do as a therapist is what we call SOAP notes. It's assessment notes. And you would think, oh no, he's in trouble because how is he going to write these notes? And how is he going to read it? So they actually developed a program for him where he could just basically point to pictures, and he could do SOAP notes by the pictures.
Wow.
And you would think, well, yeah, because everyone would say, well, you get him to school, he graduated, and what is he going to do? That's what everyone would say. Well, guess what? He's doing like everyone else doing, but they actually created now the program is popular. Even regular therapists are using it because they can just point to pictures versus writing, and it's way faster.
So there is supports, there is ways if you have any kind of different, not disabilities.
Yeah.
I don't like to call it like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe call it a different learning style, challenge, whatever. But the cool thing about this is that, and this is not the only place it happens or the only time in history it happens. When we develop some of these things for people with specialized challenges, a lot of times the things we develop is good for all of us, and it's actually even more efficient. So by being able to be open to and being adaptable, the people, not only those people benefit, but a lot of us benefit too. So this is a perfect story of that. And just a quick summary, his mom also has some challenges, ESL. She also did well. She finished the program. She started her own business, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Cool. Good.
Success.
Yeah.
Blanca, you have any other question? Do you have something special?
Well, in Makami, we always have something going on. We have lots of projects that Maria, in one of the interviews, because she was with us at the beginning of 2023, just keep an eye on Makami. We cannot reveal yet because we are not authorized, but we are dying for. Check my Facebook. Yesterday I made a post. So yes, many more good things are coming to Makami.
Absolutely.
And Kunle, thank you very much. Right?
Kunle, thank you for coming to the Viva Latino. And we say it's the first, but for sure not the last time we are with us. And people, if you want another interview with Kunle, put here in this program and we invite again at Kunle. Thank you so much and see you in the next show. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.